This one, we're going to actually drive a finished car for the first time. Now, what I wanted to do is drive straight into the airport tunnels around Manchester, and we'll just have a listen to it first of all. Probably the best way to start off this video. Nice little thumbs up from these guys. Have a nice little tunnel run, hear the noise. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive up into the hills. I'm going to have a quick chat about the differences between this car as it is now and as it was when I first started, probably 18 months ago. And generally sum up how I feel about the car. So I guess one of the main interesting points about this build would be how much does it differ from a standard NA Supra, and it is hard to say. I will preface that it's hard to say because it's been about 18 months since I last drove the car in its nearly standard form, so it's hard for me to kind of compare too much. If I'd have just got out of it and then got straight into this one, I could obviously compare a bit better. But what I will say is that on idle it sounds incredible. You can really hear the kind of lumpiness of those cams, and I think the actual fuel delivery of the throttle bodies also aids that as well, so it does sound really kind of meaty on idle. And then in terms of the actual power delivery itself, it feels like it's got a lot more top end. It also obviously revs higher because we've set the rev limit to 7,200 if I remember correctly. I'm not sure exactly what the rev limit is on a standard car or the fuel cut-off, but it's telling me on here that it's around 6,800 RPM, and it does feel like it's pulling all the way up to that 7,200 RPM rev limit. It does feel like it's got a lot more mid-range sort of punch as well, but I think I would say probably at the lower end, so sort of 1 to 2,000 RPM, it does feel like it struggles a little bit. But that's not the end of the world, really. I can kind of get over that. It's not often that you're really worrying too much about 1 to 2,000 RPM around a track. You definitely won't be. You may have just been able to hear a bit of scrubbing from the back there. Now that is obviously because I put these bigger 18-inch wheels on and 265 cross-section tyres. It does tend to scrub a little bit. I think the only way I can fix that is if I put coilovers on, but obviously that's a big expense, and I've just had a big expense, so that can wait for a later day. I am curious to know if it's going to scrub like that on a track or not. I'm not 100% sure. Possibly even with someone else in the car. So we have Chris in the car at the moment. He's been helping me film the drive-bys today. So it doesn't tend to do it as much when you're only one person in the car. I have rolled the arches out on both front and back, so it is better than it was originally. But it's still obviously not quite perfect. On the tighter corners you really notice it, or under specific load. Now I'm not going to go too fast around these corners here. It's wet, as you can probably see, the windscreen wipers are going. It's quite slippy. And I'm on Nankang NS2R tyres, which are quite good in the dry on a track. They're not that great in the wet on a road with differing surfaces. And also Liam has mentioned that the tyres themselves are misshapen on the MOT. Apparently it's quite a common thing with these Nankang tyres. So I might have to get some new tyres at some point. I might go for something similar to what I've got in the Civic, the Goodyear Eagle F1s, as they were absolutely brilliant in the wet and also great in the dry. So I might look into getting something like that for this, but they might be a bit more expensive for this. The difference between 17 and 18 does seem to be a fair bit. I think in terms of handling, it is a little bit of an unfair comparison comparing the Civic to the Supra, the EP3 Civic to the Supra, because the Civic just takes everything in its stride and it's obviously built for that kind of thing. These kind of tight, twisty bends, a British B-road, is what that car is sort of aimed at, whereas this is obviously more of a Grand Tourer than an out-and-out sports car. So it is unfair to compare the two, but it does take them well. And I'll really get to see how it is around the track. I'm hoping to take it around Bolton Park. One big change I've obviously noticed between this and the car 18 months ago is the fuel consumption. It's using quite a lot more fuel. At a guess, I'd say about 15-20% more fuel. I got 300 miles to a full tank the other day. I'm not sure how many litres that is. I think it's around 50 or 60 litres, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure someone in the comments can say how big the tank is. But I put about 80 pounds worth of fuel in and it's probably got me about 300 miles, whereas that would have got me about 350 miles, 360 miles in the car as it was fairly standard. Now, I have been putting my foot down a little bit more, so that's probably to be expected, but I think I've probably knocked off around 40 miles from the full range of this car. That's kind of to be expected. It's gone 440cc injectors, and obviously the actual fuel delivery is completely different, and there's a lot more supporting mods on it now, the cams as well. Everything is combined to make it more of a thirsty car, shall we say. So it does have the tendency to step out a bit. Sorry, obviously you didn't see that. I think if there was one thing I could change about this car, it would probably be the gearbox. The 5-speed gearbox which is in this, which is a W58 gearbox, the ratios are just too long, really. I think second gear goes all the way up to 70 mile an hour or 70 something mile an hour, which is just too long, really. It does mean you can, I guess you could theoretically get a good 0 to 60 time in it, but in terms of usability, especially around a track or on tight corners, anything like that, you just don't know whether to be in second or third gear. Now, the throttle body kit itself has helped with that because it does have that better mid-range power than it used to have, but it's still something, if I was to change anything, I would change the gearbox. A nicer, closer ratio 6-speed box would just really make the car feel that little bit more dynamic, I'd say. Now, I've never actually driven the V160 and V161, the 6-speed gearboxes you can get for these. So I don't know if that would be a suitable replacement, but in terms of cost, it certainly isn't. I mean, that's £7,000 for a used one, at least, I'd say. I've seen reconditioned ones go for £15,000, which is just insane for a gearbox. That's 3 times as much as I paid for the car originally. So I think it's just something I'm always going to have to deal with. I think it will lend itself to certain tracks as well. The faster tracks, obviously, it will be a bit better, this 5-speed. But the tighter tracks I might struggle with. It's such a lovely road. It's just a shame that the weather's not that great, so I can't properly give it some beans. Or I'm at risk of binning off the car that I've spent so long building. Or Liam spent so long building. I can't take the credit for that. I've just paid the money. So you find on a road like this, you're not really getting out of second gear unless you're going down longer straights. Oh, big pop then. That's about it for the video today. I just wanted to give it a quick drive around. It's a shame the weather's not been too kind to us. Explain the differences between what I had and what I now have. I'll do some more videos on the car. As I said, I want to do a wrap up of how much it's all cost, and then at some point I do want to do a road trip in the car, so I'll bring the camera along for that and hopefully get some nice stuff and find out a little bit more about the car. But for now, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. If you don't, then don't bother. And I'll catch you in the next video.